Live from our studios here, 48 Swanika Street, Abele Impia Accra, Ghana. This is Pan-African News. Anchoring the news is me, Ivy Abnadide Nakite. We are live across 46 African countries and some part of Europe. We are live on Facebook at the moment at Pan-African Television. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Ghana Private Road Transport Union hits back at government for refusing to engage the union on the increment in fuel prices. Now, the GPRTU has called on commercial drivers to wear red armbands in protests. Also coming up, Parliament commences debate on the 2022 budget. We will take you live to Parliament House for update. Now, with the public outcry on the tidal waves that devastated parts of the Volta region down, victims are calling for more assistance and permanent solution to their annual predicament. We have details of these stories, including some stories in the world of business, sports, entertainment, and international. Don't go anywhere. A big thanks to you for choosing to stay with us. If you just tuned in, you are watching Pan-African News with me, Ivy Abnadide Nakite. Now let's begin with our first story, where drivers at the La Paz station here in Accra are calling on government to scrap some levies on fuel pricing in the recent budget and has threatened to stage a nationwide set-down strike on Monday, November 29, if government ignores their plea. According to them, they are uninterested in increasing lorry fares since it will make life unbearable for the ordinary Ghanaian. There's more to the following report.
Sources say there was an emergency meeting yesterday by some transport unions here in the Greater Accra region to deliberate on matters surrounding the budget reading by the finance minister last week. Out of that meeting, there was a directive that all drivers in the country should use a red band starting today. We are here at the La Paz station to actually assess the situation, whether indeed the drivers here are adhering to those directives. So this has been the chanting by some drivers here at the La Paz station. All they are saying is that they want government to actually come to their aid in pricing of food. Let's hear from them now. Champion, we are driver ni. Yes sir. And the monya break, Matthias. Then the monya break.
Master. Petrol here to every 2 days be I to petrol. Says here petrol 32 Ghana cedi I got 35 Ghana. Now yes say my ebe say na ka wona so age say. Ka otu for ma ka wona so. Utu say mu a enye ye. Say omutu fu we mu ne etu we ma ka wona betu ni say. Yesu de be di kra ye nya. Ye tumi ye demand the whole day. De coffee 10 cedi. Adai. Oyire say odi scan no e pe ma afoforo abonten. Eti abanye bibi wo mama yayi. And I also raise the issue about police. Oh, offer. Ye dey say dey drink asem o. Ya dey say drink asem. Fu ebo ya den. Ya dey ka say be aka so a. Edu na police force afa waji scan nyina. E ya do for police force car asa ban police force car. Umu ewu fu na police force am dey tie. Zempa dey be jado arek no. Na ma ba ye na adwuma. Mu ye tuo.
Also work Accra the found. You can say mo ebokunya no fitin there akosi nyameboa Monday. Monday ni do na ban entie mo fra mo mpenimfo say mo nya adwuma. Ayampa.
Ayasam no krapa na mo kan. Ye ja ye ni abre pa. Na ye di aban akofo ado ho yawo bebre. say no boss bone obeshe na da le kasa polo obetugu ya so aye dem nka twetwe e to aba e ma na president akufo na me nim se galamse no guru no galamse no guru nti no di gala ma drivers work and pay akufo do omra bonti no maka jensa ampa asankafo mo gala na sa driver fo mo gala we mo gala mo work and pay no je di etua na di ada holy di because I didn't just be so asankana to me so na papa be tram ehyeji metu sensa me fo hwe kofi me se me twa yire hwe mba se di akufo do ana na yire ono so hwe yire hwe ba no e me ya to the gala ma drivers work and pay omra bonti no maka jensa drivers mo gala me the gala ma work and pay na mo ma kase mo tu na kase na ka da mo you say well this say na fango buara ko na ko only think what 7 players what am say dey me osenkeni me top petrol 10 gallons nam dey adwuma agu for the jam say me twetwo into osem 2 cedi dey makwa ina out me ko ina out ba ko ba me ko biom ni na out me 2 cedi o dey me 2 cedi e man na me boss ayire say 6 gallons na agu for the me 10 gallons nam dey adwuma na dey wu ya for so o dey 6 cedi a o go get say man say tika tuju ni na oje onu ntin kwa na 7 insurance ko so we ko so agu for the 7 players o ya ma moli 7 players ya kana so say 7 players kana yanka nga baby awon so jan nti ya so bi etetia asankafo ya wala past station ya so bi etetia ne kan so da so ba so anase friend dey say Ikroma nti ye we from there ka say ma ye ye nto first aka wo ho aka ye probably say ye dey say asankafo ye betu first because say Ikroma agent sabi onu bo se bola oba no de ku nyuma ina abodafo ina ko strike wo man abodafo ina ko strike wo man ade amu na mo mu nya dwane ni because me amadi mi betu fo abodafo ba no me wa ko dem de we na me betu fo abodafo ba ye dey able pa nti ye me onu mo ya man dey obai so ama abonjera makasa 7 players fu afa ngo bo ma seso a 7 players ye ye ba kire say Ghana 2 minutes ya na ye de ma no imi da se some drivers here at the station. All they're saying is that they made a reduction on the floor. I have with me David Agbaglo, who is one of the executives of the transport unions here in the Greater Accra, who also happened to have a chance to be part of that meeting yesterday. Mr. David, can you share with me what actually prompted your union to be part of that tranche meeting yesterday?
Thank you very much. What prompted the meeting yesterday is we wrote to the state or the government that there are some taxes on the petroleum that are of no use these days that we are in. They should scrap it off. And government assured us that we should wait till the budget. After the budget, we will understand them. After the budget, we read our portion of it, and we say that government haven't been fair with us. So yesterday, we called an emergency meeting, all the transport operators in Ghana, namely GPRTU, Concerned Drivers Association of Ghana, ProTour, Tiger, Cooperative, JAPTOUR, Tanker and Haulage Association, Trailer Drivers Association, Tipper Drivers, Motor Riders Association, Online Drivers Association also were there. And we, those that were there yesterday, are up to 20 unions. And the decision we took is that today, all stations, including our vehicles, must go red. Every vehicle should use red banner on his car. And this is what we are saying. It has been demonstrated over here. And we want government to know that yes, it is not the increment of the fares that we want. It's out of age now. We need to hold government accountable. Fuel increment happened on the 20th of May. 20th of May, telling us that government is not regarding we commercial drivers in Ghana as entity. And if we didn't sit up, there is a saying in Akan, say yan soria yadi yesikan ebedwananka. And this is why the whole coalition stood for or stand for that we don't want our sikai to be used for Nankedwa.
Now, what happens to drivers who fail to comply to this directive, some of these directives you are mentioning?
What happens is that every driver, you see, it's a new message being sent across. Even other stations, when the budget was read, if you listen to what even market women are saying in support of we drivers, tells you that no driver is going to go contrary to this thing. No driver is going to go contrary to it, because every driver will comply. We are buying the fuel with hard currency, with our money, our sweat. Each day, a driver of a Sprinter bus of this caliber loses 70 cedis a day. We commercial drivers thought we use fuel more, but at the coalition before we know that, yes, the tanker drivers, the tipper drivers, the articulator drivers, they buy in drums. Alaji Tanko of Ghana National Cargo Association says his car, before one move from here to the north, he buy 2 drums. When 2 drums, when you calculate the money, ours is peanut. So this is a blow to our industry, and we don't want our industry to be collapsed like how banks were collapsed.
This has been some concerns by some drivers here at the La Paz station here in the Greater Accra. All they are saying is that government should come to their aid to avert this issue of fuel pricing. George Yosen Vinen for Pan-African Television, La Paz.
Corporate Affairs Director of the Consumers Advocacy Center, Benjamin Esuman, has called on the government to slash the electronic transaction levy from its initial percentage to 0.5%. According to him, the move will ease pressure on the life of the ordinary Guinean.
In the 2022 budget and economic policy statement, which was laid before Parliament last week, government announced of the electronic transaction levy, which will take effect on February 1st, 2022. The policy has triggered public outcry and widespread condemnation within the country. A pressure group, Consumers Advocacy Center, has added their voice for the levy pegged at 1.75 to be reduced to 0.5 in a press release. In an interview with Mordiana Nenate, The institution's Director of Corporate Affairs, Benjamin Suman, touched on reasons for the reduction.
The 1.75% levy on all cashless transfers or electronically transferred accounts will result in increasing the burden on the ordinary Ghanaian who consumes financial services electronically. So that's the impact of a tax, which is also an indirect tax in this case. Now, the calculation that we are interested in doing is doing that of the mobile money transfers. We are interested in mobile money transfer because it's currently leading in Ghana's efforts to electronically capture financial transactions and take them away from the physical cash market. There are a lot of advantages to be gained by going this digitization, but we think that the 1.75% will erode the gains that we are looking for. Here is it. In the year 2020, the Bank of Ghana announces that we got 569 billion worth of money being transferred on the mobile money platforms. If you are therefore taxing that amount of money and you are taxing it using 1.75, it is up to us to work the mathematics and say that 0.0175, which is 1.75%, times the 569 billion, that will give the government of Ghana about 8 to 9 billion. It's very close, it's about 8.9 something billion. Now, money is new money that is coming to the government of Ghana, and it's good. However, what is the government giving as a result of this? The government says that I'm taking toll booths from our highways, and now I'm placing the toll booth on our Momo highway. So the Momo highway will now collect the money that we're supposed to get from the toll booths that we drive through. The toll booths were giving us 78 million. In 2020, the toll booths we collected, all the money we collected from toll booths were accounted for 78 million. Let's grant it that this year we are making even about 80 million. You compare the 8 billion to 9 billion that the government will get from Momo tax alone, and compare it with the 78 or 80 million that it was making on toll booths. It means that the government of Ghana has jumped the revenue that it was getting from the toll booth by 10,000% jump. So if in one fiscal year, in 1 year, the government is able to stop collecting 80 million and grabs 8 billion, 10,000% jump, that is astronomical.
He further admonished the government to consider the 0.5 reduction to enable them save much money for the state coffers.
We think that if the government decide to come to the discussion table, there is abundance of evidence from Tanzania, from Uganda, from Kenya. The economic analysis done by the Brookings Institute, for example, is available, and I can give you a copy on WhatsApp that you can read it. There's abundance of evidence available to let the finance see it for himself with his team, appraise it, and know that they are on the wrong path. What they are doing, if they pursue it, it will reduce the number of people who do mobile money transactions. Market on the wall. A lot of people will withdraw and they will not transfer. People will prefer that instead of me sending the 500 Ghana cedi to my mother in the village over the weekend, what you do is that you drive past the nearest lorry station that will be going to that area and say, oh, please take it. If you get there, give it to Auntie Mansa for me. I'll call her and tell her to give it to my mother. That's what will happen. People will be running away from paying that tax because people will sit back and say, at the end of the month, I'm able to transfer, say, 2,000 or 1,000 Ghana to my project. I send my Masons money through my mobile money platform. I'll wait in the weekend to go to my construction site myself and pay them. The financial inclusion that we are seeking to have on the electronic platforms will fail if the government pursue it, because it has happened before in Uganda, it has happened before in Tanzania and all that. It has happened before. Every policy has consequences. This policy that has been announced has consequences. We are advising the government that there's empirical evidence that can convince and must convince the government of Ghana to take a second look at the 1.75. If the government listens, it will be good for the economy, it will be good for the electronic financial ecosystem that we are creating, it will be good for us all. But if the government doesn't listen, the government will suffer the consequences for it.
Now, moving on, Parliament has commenced the debate on the 2022 budget statement and economic policy of the government of the year ending 31st December 2020 to today, as the House looks to approve or disapprove the policy statement presented by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta earlier last week. Now, the House will be debating selected aspects of the budget relating finance and employment, among other core issues laid before it by government. We have been joined in on phone by our parliamentary correspondent, Gregory Ochre, to give us the very latest. Greg, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Tell us what is happening in Parliament today.
Well, the House just commenced the debate for the 2020 budget statement about an hour ago, and today the areas are finance, environment, gender, foreign affairs, youth and sports, and employment. Now, about an hour ago, the chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament and MP for Obuasi West, Honorable KETU, was given the floor to address the House on why the House should accept or disapprove of this budget. And in giving that address, he charged the House to approve of the budget because this current budget, that's the budget that seeks to usher the nation into the year ending 31st December 2022, seeks to deal with the problems that have affected Ghana's economy for decades. And this issue is bridging the gap between the country's revenue and its expenditure. And in giving the reasons why, he drew a perfect picture of why this budget is solving that issue. Now, he says in 2006, for every 100 cedis that Ghana collected by way of revenue, 14 cedis of this 100 cedis was used to service debt. Now, in 2010, under the Atanos government, 16 cedis of every 100 cedis that the country received by way of revenue was used to pay debt. Now, under John Dramani Mahama by 2016, the country used 33 cedis of every 100 cedis that the country received in revenue. Now, in 2020, this figure has rose to 45 cedis. And by the look of the end of year projections, this year it will rise to 47 cedis. So he's saying that this budget under paragraph 322 to paragraph 332 proposes various solutions that government can use to curb this menace, and that is the move away from sole sourcing to competitive tenders in giving government contracts, and then government should move away from retirement contracts and all those things. So he says that these are the reasons why the House should approve of the budget, so the country can move away and bridge the gap between its expenditures that revenues are used to pay. Now, a while ago, the ranking member on the Finance Committee and Member of Parliament for Ejumaku and Yanesi, Dr. KETU, rebutted this assertion painted by the ranking member of the Finance Committee, saying that the country's debt levels have risen in the space of 4.5 years to 341 billion cedis. He also goes on to say that as at now, the government uses 93% of its revenue to service debt. That is 35 billion cedis of government's estimated 37 billion cedis in revenue is used to service debt. And he's saying that all these are not because of anything, but it's because of the lack of prudent fiscal policy of the government and over expenditure, spending money that the government has not even received. This is the core issue that is widening the gap, because he asserts that actual government have had these issues with debt servicing, but this government has widened it to about 60% of revenue. So he's charging the government to prudent policies in the budget and come back to the House, because the minority side will not approve of the current policies in this budget because they are not prudent enough. Yeah.
All right. Looking at things, how long is the debate going to last?
Okay, so the House agreed to start the debate at 10 a.m. today, and then break at 2 p.m. and then go for a 1 hour break and then come back at 3 p.m. But the House commenced activities around 11:30 a.m. today. So from the look of things, we may be looking at the long haul today, but I'm sure the House will break at 2 p.m. So maybe after that, we will see how long the House will go on for today's debate.
Greg, thank you so much. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. So we have been in conversation with our parliamentary correspondent, Gregory Amwa. Yes, we do know that Parliament commences debate on the 2022 budget statement presented by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta earlier last weekend. He has been giving us more updates on that. We'll tell you what happens on our news break bulletin this evening. PM. Now let's do away without Municipal Chief Executive for KETU South constituency, Maxwell Kofi Lugudo, has called on government to extend the second phase of a KETA Sea defense project to Aflao. According to him, the extension will help protect other communities along the coastal lines in the region. That's more.
At least 3,000 people in KETAANLO and KETU South constituencies have been rendered homeless after tidal waves swept through their homes on Sunday, November 7, 2021. Communities such as Abutia Koper, Keji Koper, Anyanwi and other communities in the three constituencies were largely affected as homeless residents were left with nothing to salvage. Affected residents, mainly children and women, have their residential abodes destroyed by the waves. Speaking on the aftermath of the devastating waves, the MCE for KETU South underscored the need for government to collaborate with its Togolese counterparts to extend the KETA Sea defense to Aflao. This, he said, will help protect other communities in the area from similar occurrences.
As far as I'm concerned, I had a discussion with the regional minister. I have to deal with the regional minister, and some discussions with the Minister for Works and Housing. As far as I know, there are a lot of preparation that is ongoing. As you could hear, the Minister for Works and Housing himself said there are a lot of preparation ongoing for this project to start as quickly as possible. But let me do this clarification. I will encourage the government not to do this sea defense to only the affected places. They have to extend it to Aflao border. Because when it stops at maybe Adina, the rest of Denu and Aflao will be washed away with these tidal waves. So they have to do it up to Aflao border. And I'm sure if they want to do that, they have to do it in consultation with the Togolese counterpart. Because if they end it at the border, then the whole Lomé will be affected, and which will even come back to affect us in Ghana here. So it's a big project on its own.
A resident who spoke to the media expressed frustration over the challenges they face with the tidal wave attacks.
KETA has been hardly hit. Is that when you compare Salakope and Amutino to KETA, one, you realize that this area, Salakope here, there are a lot of sand here. So immediately the sea flows here, the sand absorbs it. Besides, we are torn between the sea and then the lagoon. So anytime this place gets flooded, we have to break into the main road for the sea to gush into the lagoon. There are times that we use pumping machine to pump it to the lagoon. That is how come when you come here after some few hours that the tidal wave hit this place, you feel like there's nothing happening here. Now KETA, they don't have anywhere to pump their water to. So anytime you visit there, you feel that that place has been hardly hit. That is not so. We have also been seriously affected.
Now Now, we have been joined in on phone by Honorable Richard Kwame, Member of Parliament for Anlo constituency. Honorable, good afternoon. Hello. Hello. Hello, Honorable, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us on Midday News.
Thank you.
All right, quick one, Honorable. It's been 2 weeks after the tidal waves attack in your constituency. What has been the situation so far?
Thank you very much. For now, by the grace of God, the sea level is gone down now. The sea has moved to each place for now, but it has left behind it trails the remnants of destructions that it has caused. That is the buildings that are gone, those that have their roof ripped off, and those that are just not good for human habitation, and areas that were flooded as a result of the sea rise. Virtually about 90% of the land is right now, and people are now
3,000 people in KETAANLO.
For now, too, because of the help that your media house and other media houses gave us, some corporate institutions, individuals, and what have you, they have come to the aid of the people in terms of supply of food, items, and clothing, beddings, and few other things. What is left now is we are praying that the government itself will come up with some tents and other building materials that we will use for their temporary habitation. We are thinking of relocating those of them who are highly affected to safer grounds. And we also pray that government will come in quickly for us to rehabilitate and find a suitable place for the pupils, that's the students, for them to continue with their studies. So I may say, so far, so good, but only that the damage cost is for now irreparable. My only plea through you is that we, especially areas around Agokeji, Japlagbe, Kuvama, we realize that for the past 6 years that Volta River Authority ceases to dredge the mouth of the River Volta, it has helped in exacerbating the problems of those shorelines or the coastal lines. Whenever the dredging is done, it means there is always a free flow of the River Volta from its high and middle course to the lower course, which is the mouth. But now that it has been sheltered, what it means is that the river could no more flow freely into the sea. And if it flows freely into the sea, it goes to break the high tide because of the velocity that it goes with. But within the span of these 6 years that they were not doing that, a whole township, that's Kwakwaboy, is gone. And Kuvama is virtually gone. Now it's hitting around Japlagbe and its environs. So my plea, in fact, when we engaged them, they came to engage us somewhere in April or so. They promised us that they are the Dredger Gospel and they are about to procure a new one. And they promised to come to site to start their dredging in this November. But for now, we've not heard anything. And if they don't do this in time, I bet you most of the coastlines in the Volta region will go. Though this problem is not attributable only to their inability to dredge. There are other factors, but if they do that, then we'll be able to profile solution to other areas that are being affected. We know that the ultimate solution is the sea defense. Okay. And we are praying that the Hydrology Department of Works and Housing will intervene for us to do the studies and see whatever we can do for our people to be in peace. I am of the view that even if we say that people should relocate, are we going to allow the coastline to just go submerged, or we have to protect it for tourism and other things for our children and our children's children to come and see in the day to come? So that is the situation of the ground now. Thank you, Mr.
Honorable, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. All right, so 2 weeks ago, tidal waves washed through some parts of the Volta region, which includes the KETAANLO and the KETU South constituencies, respectively, and at least 3,000 people were rendered homeless. And we have been speaking with the Member of Parliament for the Anlo constituency, Honorable Richard Kwame Sefe, and he has been telling us about the current situation with regards to the tidal waves that happened in the Volta region. You are still watching Pan-African News on Pan-African Television. We have more stories after the short break. A very big thanks to you for doing the staying. Thank you for choosing to stay with us. Let's do business. President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, has reacted to the 2022 National Budget Statement presented by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta on November 17, 2021. According to him, even though he agrees with government through the Finance Minister's presentation to place levy on all electronic transactions, e-levy, to widen tax net, attention should equally be given to tax charges, which has attracted mixed reactions.
Authority of His Excellency the President, and in accordance with Articles 179 and 180 of the 1992 Constitution, the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta on November 17, 2021, presented the 2022 National Budget Statement on the floor of Parliament to Ghanaians. In his presentation, he stated that after considerable deliberations, government has decided to place a levy on all electronic transactions to widen the tax net and rope in the informal sector. These electronic transactions covers mobile money payments, bank transfers, merchant payments, and inward remittances would be charged at an applicable rate of 1.75%, which shall be borne by the sender except inward remittances, which will be borne by the recipient. In an interview with Pan-African News on the said issue, President of Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, stated emphatically that he agrees with introduction of the electronic levy, which will enable government to widen its tax nets for the better. He further urged government to probe into the tax rate charges so that it could be affordable by the ordinary Ghanaian so far as trading is concerned.
I will dwell on just about 2 or 3 areas of interest to the business community. First and foremost, we have been seeking for widening of the tax net, and so anything that go to widen the tax net so that we should not put everything on importers, for me is very important for me. That's why when there's a levy that goes to areas like petroleum levies and like the Momo levy, that's the electronic tax and all that, I'm for it, because then everybody are brought into the tax payment system. As to the rate of the rate, and that one can be discussed, because I always also maintain that taxes, when they are affordable, the compliance level is extremely high. And so much as I want government to expand its tax net, I always also talk about the affordability of the rate of payment. So that's for me one important thing. But I want to remind Ghana Revenue Authority or the government also to look at the aspect of double taxation. If we do not put it in right context, the Momo levy, because you know, the e-commerce have come to take the place, mostly the traditional way of doing business, and people use the Momo to pay us electronically. And if it is a sales input that is being taxed, because when I receive payment for the person who is sending my payment to me, whichever amount that he takes out will be charged against me, or whatever payment I also do to the person. So once we are doing this as a tax element, then we should also know that we are going to factor same as the sales tax, which could be imputed into our taxes or income tax when we are filing our income taxes.
Reporting for Pan-African News, Daniel.
On an international front this afternoon, an African Christian, Reverend Kolade Fadanusi, has expressed dissatisfaction about some countries on the continent which have supported Israel's accreditation to the African Union. Now, according to him, it's shameful that certain African leaders have even asked via government to lobby the African Union to keep Israel's accreditation. Now, this evening, during Newsbreak at 6:30 p.m., we will be joined in the studios by Reverend Kolade to tell us more. Sports X next. Now let's do sports. The Federation of International Football Association, FIFA, Disciplinary Committee will today sit to deliberate on South Africa's replay request against the Black Stars of Ghana in the World Cup qualifiers.
The South African Football Association filed a protest requesting FIFA Disciplinary Committee to review officiating and penalty decision awarded to Ghana by Senegalese referee Maguete Ndiaye in the last Group J encounter in the 2022 African World Cup qualifiers. The Ghana Football Association has also responded accordingly, urging FIFA to dismiss the protest lodged by the South African Football Association, which to them was not properly done. FIFA, in a statement, has informed the South African Football Association and the Ghana Football Association that the protest will be submitted to the FIFA Disciplinary Committee today for consideration and decision in accordance with Act 14, Section 9 of the regulations FIFA World Cup 2022. Preliminary Olympic competition, as well as at 46 and 54 of the FIFA disciplinary code.
Now let's wrap up the news with some entertaining stories. Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria, is home to numerous architectural masterpieces which are significant both historically and culturally. Now on today's showbiz segment, we will shift our focus on the GIDAN MAKAMA Museum in Kano.
The facility, located in the 15th century historical building, is recognized as a national monument by the government of Nigeria. This building served as temporary palace of Kano before the current palace GIDAN Rumfa was constructed in the 15th century. The museum has a significant collection of arts, crafts and items of historic interest related to the Kano area. The museum is divided into 11 galleries, each with their own center of focus. Galleries include the Zaure, or the main entrance hall, with displays of traditional materials, city walls and maps of Kano, the history of statehood, Kano in the 19th century, the Civil War, economy, industry and music. An open space inside the museum acts as performance stage for the Koroso dance and drama group. The house was originally built in the 19th century for Muhammad Rumfa, then the young grandchild of Makama, who has just been appointed as the Makaman Kanu, a traditional title. Rumfa later became king and moved to a new palace, but subsequent Makamas lived in the building. After the British capture of Kano in 1903, the place briefly served as an office for the colonial officers in Kano. The structure was later divided into 3 parts. One section became a museum run by the Department of Antiquities, another became a primary school, and the third maintained the original intention as a residential building. GIDAN MAKAMA is now part of the museums under management of the National Commission of Museums and Monuments, and one of the old structures depicting traditional Hausa architecture. The structure originally contained mud walls typically, but in later years some modern renovation work has taken place. The galleries are the rooms and courtyards of the old Makamas and depict the style of a traditional residence of Kano. The entrance of the gate exhibited some historical pots believed to have been excavated at Kufar, Kabuga, a gate within the Kano city wall, and also 2 colonial canoes.
Well, that's it for this afternoon's Pan African News at Pan African Television. Before we go, a recap of our headlines. Ghana Private Road Transport Union hits back at government for refusing to engage the union on the increment in fuel prices. The GPRTU has called on commercial drivers to wear red armbands in protests. Parliament commences debate on the 2022 budget. With a public outcry on the tidal waves that devastated parts of the Volta region down, victims are calling for more assistance and permanent solution to their annual predicament. We brought you details of these stories and many more. My name is Ivy Abnadi. Don't forget to follow Pan African Television on all social media platforms, on Facebook at Pan African Television, on Instagram at Pan African Television, and on Twitter at Pan African Television. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.